What usually happens is whenever we are going to talk about the reaction in the sun, we are less more or less talking about fusion. Okay, and in fusion, whatever reaction we are talking about is more or less probabilistic in nature. So if we say that this particular relation, this would be more or less 85%. So the chances of having this reaction would be 85%. So we do have one hydrogen atom, so that means one proton combining with one more proton, and we do have a deuteron there. Okay, and then of course some positron and neutrino. Okay? And then we have separate reactions from where we get one more deuteron, and then we have got one proton, and then they combine together to give you another product, which is nothing but the helium-3. Okay, helium-3 plus some gamma rays. And then this reaction happens twice. This entire cycle happens twice. That's why there is a 2 here, there is a 2 here. And then we get two separate helium-3. And when these two separate helium-3 combine, I will basically have helium-4. And this is the final product that I have. And based on this, we have got an enormous amount of energy that is basically coming out. Okay, so this is basically the generation of energy that happens in fusion. I also told you that compared to fission, a fusion reaction, the energy released will be much higher. Okay, and as a result, is the controlling a fusion reaction becomes a bit of difficult, and as a result, nuclear reactors mostly works on fission and not fusion. Okay, so are there any other reactions possible? Is what we are going to discuss today. So after a number of reaction happens, there is a chance that you will also have a reaction where you will have beryllium. Okay, so you have got beryllium 7. Okay, and then of course there are electrons. I told you, since it's a plasma state, if it's a plasma state, the electrons are not bound. Okay, they can move around freely. So since it's a plasma state, we do have the free electrons, and these electrons can actually react with beryllium, and as a result I can get lithium 7 and of course some neutrino. Okay, and then I have got the lithium 7 involved in the reaction. It can get hold of another hydrogen atom, and then I can get something which you call as beryllium 8 plus gamma rays. Okay, so beryllium 8 is basically nothing but an isotope of beryllium. Okay, and this is more or less unstable in nature. So you know, if it is unstable in nature, it will try to break into two, and it will try to come to a stable configuration. So one of the most stable configuration that we already know is helium. So you know, this is 8. Okay, beryllium 8. So I can have helium 4. Okay, and then there will be two of that. Okay, so two helium 4s I can get as an output. So this is the second cycle, and what is the probability of having this cycle is this. So you see, it basically starts from beryllium, no doubt, but then the end result is again helium. So in all the cycle, the proton-proton cycle that we call them, the end result will be helium. Okay, so for your exam purpose, probably you need to remember the reaction scheme. Okay, that's very important. Okay, there is one more reaction that might happen. We can have the 7 beryllium. Okay, and then it will combine with hydrogen, and it will give you 8 beryllium 5. Okay, again the same thing. And finally, what happens is 8 beryllium 5 will combine with an electron in the plasma state, and then you can have helium plus some generation of neutrino. Okay, so these are the reactions that are possible. Let's just have a look at the second proton-proton cycle. Okay, so this is your proton-proton chain 2, whose probability is 14.9%. Okay, so just have a look at this. Okay, we are going to look into this entire process now. So we have got hydrogen and hydrogen combining, and then we have got deuterium, and then with a positron and a neutrino. For your exam purpose, I'd suggest that don't miss out on writing down the positron and the neutrino. Okay, that's important. Then this is the same, it remains as it is. You get helium 3 and gamma, and then we have got not helium 3 plus helium 3 combining. Okay, we have got a helium 3, and from another reaction I have got helium 4. Both of them will combine, and finally it will give you beryllium 7 plus some gamma rays. Okay, and then what happens, this beryllium 7 will pick up some electron. Okay, and it will become lithium 7. Okay, you know, if there is an electron picking up, what happens is this. Just a second, I'm just Okay, so what I was saying was that we do have a beryllium-4, and then that will actually pick up an electron, and then we have got finally lithium-7, okay, and then the neutrino is there. And then this lithium-7 will again pick up a hydrogen atom, okay, and then it will become more or less unstable in nature and result in formation of 2 helium nuclei. Okay, so if you just look into this proton-proton 2 cycle, okay, this is just a chemical reaction that you really need to remember. This is balanced. You do start from the hydrogen atom, and then you have the final product as helium. Okay, final product is helium, and the amount of energy that is being released is 26.7 MeV. Okay, so this is the proton-proton 2 cycle, and the probability of this reaction happening is 14.9. Okay, so the end result is of course helium, but intermediate reactions are different. Okay, so that's important. So we will actually take up the third reaction now, and the probability of having this third reaction is minimum. Okay, so what happens is this in the third reaction. Okay, this is the third chain and the third cycle. Here again we do have the hydrogen atom and the hydrogen atom combining. We do have the deuterium, and then we have got the deuterium combining with the hydrogen. We again got a helium. Again the helium-3 combines with helium-4, and then finally we have got 7 beryllium. Okay, plus the gamma radiation. So what happens is 7 beryllium will again combine with hydrogen, and then we get the 8 beryllium. That's the last reaction that I was talking about. So what I've done is I have listed all these 3 cycles separately. First cycle we've done it other class, second cycle we've done it today, and this is the third cycle. Okay, so you see what is the difference between the second cycle and the third cycle. You see here you basically have a beryllium-7 combining with electron here, okay, to give you lithium, and finally you get helium, okay, from here to here. So this is what is happening in this second cycle. In the third cycle, what happens is you have the beryllium, but it doesn't react with an electron. It basically reacts with a proton or a hydrogen atom, and then it becomes 8 beryllium. Okay, and 8 beryllium, when it actually again combines with an electron, it again breaks up into 2 helium, but this time it will generate some neutrino. Okay, but here there is no generation of neutrino. So for your exam purpose, you have to basically just remember the 3 cycles. Okay, so the first 2 cycles are easy. The third cycle is a bit confusing because the last 2 lines are a bit different. Okay, so that's important. So here also what we have is the final result, which is nothing but helium. Okay, so again we do have the starting as the hydrogen atom or the proton, and finally we do have the helium. Okay, and helium plus 2 electron plus 2 neutrino. So the amount of energy that is being released is 26.7 MeV. So what happens usually is that the ultimate aim of fusion reaction or ultimate understanding of fusion reaction comes from the fact that it releases an enormous amount of energy. So when we are basically considering the proton-proton third chain, you basically have this probability to be very low. Okay, in fact, the probability might be as low as 0.1%. So 0.1%. Okay, so that's the chances of having this reaction. But nevertheless, since you are finally getting the product as helium, it is definitely going to release some energy, and that energy is going to be used for the fusion process actually that keeps on happening in the sun. Okay, so it is basically a chain reaction, and as a result of which we basically call it as chain, pp3 chain, pp2 chain, pp1 chain. So you know, this is not just a single reaction. Okay, it's just we are talking about one simple reaction that is happening, but then there are millions of such reactions happening. So whatever energy is released, it is multiplied that many times, the number of reaction that happens, and this is how energy is released in the sun. Okay, so this is something you, if you have read your final few chapters in your class 12, might be these reaction scheme you might have already seen. At least the proton-proton one cycle is always there, okay, in lower classes. But when you go to higher classes, you understand the concept of probability. You understand that it's not that only this reaction can happen, there can be some other reactions happening also. One final thing that I'd like to add up is that, you know, the mass of the sun is usually lighter than many of the stars that exist in the solar system. Okay, so if you're basically considering the universe and you have some stars, there are certain stars whose mass is much greater than the sun. Okay, And if you remember in the last class, I told you that it's not that you'll always be having a formation of helium, okay? There are possibilities of other chain reaction, because the component of sun, okay, is not only, if you consider any star in general, not about sun, the component of the stars also has some carbon there, some nitrogen there, and some oxygen there. But the amount is so low that the reaction that happens in the sun because of these components is minimum compared to whatever happens because of helium. So as a result of which, we really don't consider these reactions happening in the sun. But then these processes are more prominent and applicable in some heavier stars, okay, heavier stars. So it's heavier than the sun, you know. And there are indirect ways of knowing also that whether a star is heavier than the sun or not. Okay, spectroscopic techniques are there, so definitely you can know whether it's heavy or not. So in such reaction, you basically got something which you call as a Carnot cycle. Okay, so what happens is you start from a product, you will get back the same product. Okay, and then the reaction keeps on happening. It's basically a cyclic reaction. So how does it start? You basically have some carbon there. Okay, have some carbon 12. Okay, you know it's there. And then you do have a plasma state there also, because the energy is very high. You do have one proton reacting. So when one proton reacts with this carbon, you get the 13 nitrogen. Okay, and 13 nitrogen will actually undergo beta decay. You know, there are enormous energy present there, so beta decay is a possibility. And then it will release one beta particle, okay, electron plus, that's a positron, and a neutrino. Okay, please remember, with this we are going to look into the next chapter now. Whenever there is an electron minus, that means an electron, okay, you will always get a anti-neutrino. Okay, so it should be obvious now. Okay, so this is does not happen here. Beta decay is not this. This is the positive beta decay, beta plus decay that is happening. So electron plus neutrino. Whenever there is a electron, it will be anti-neutrino. Whenever there is a positron, it will be neutrino. Please remember this. And then what happens, since it undergoes beta decay, there is a change in the number of protons, right? Because you know positron is coming out, that means its net charge has reduced by 1, the positive charge, so it will become 6. So it is another isotope of carbon, so that is 13,6 C, okay? And then again it reacts with a proton there, and then it will form 14 nitrogen. So you know 14 nitrogen is stable, okay? It's more or less stable. And it will again, under enormous temperature, it will again react with one more proton, okay? And then it will give out oxygen. So you can understand this, why it is basically called a CNO cycle, okay? So you do have a C here, you do have a N here, you do have a O here. So involvement of carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen is there in this particular reaction, okay? Then we have got this oxygen, okay? And then what happens is this oxygen will again undergo a beta decay, okay? It will again undergo a beta decay with release of neutrino. And then this will be actually reduced by 1. This will become 7. So it will become an isotope of nitrogen, 15 and 7. Okay. And when this nitrogen reacts with another proton, this will actually give you a helium, 2 helium. Okay. Because it's unstable. Okay. It's unstable. So it's going to get you helium 4. And then finally, whatever it comes out. So that means there is an alpha decay, you can say. If this is beta decay, this is obviously an alpha decay, because helium particles are coming out. So after this alpha decay, you know, this will reduce by, this is 15, this is 1. So this is basically 15 plus 1, 16. So 16, 4 comes out, so it will be 12. So this is 12, right? Here it is 7, and this is plus 1, reacts. So that's 8, minus 2, it will become 6. So it is 6. So you're getting 12 C6 back. So you see, this is a cycle which keeps on moving to and fro between carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. Okay, and all of these three combined will actually give you the final result. So this is the process that happens in the heavier stars. Okay.